Welcome to the Matt Murphy Show. Matt's not here. I'm Cameron Smith. Thanks to Chris Hand for an excellent cross. When we were off air, we were talking about, it just seems like everything is crazy. I told him that I think I might be what's called a double hater in terms of my election choices, that I don't love them. We'll get into that today. We'll talk about where we are with the 2024 election. We'll talk about Van Jones being upset, the cases with Donald Trump, kind of where they are, what's going on. Biden coming late to the party. I believe Bell was in North Nashville yesterday and found something really interesting
Took
about
my laptop with me.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It's like so many people in the black community in Nashville had no idea what a laptop was. I was surprised.
Yeah.
I hate to give Kathy Hochul credit as the governor of New York, but I was just, first the left explains to us that people of color don't quite understand how to get ID so they can vote. And now they've explained to us that people of color don't quite understand what computers are.
Well, look, just ignore the statistical reality that 90-something% of our country is connected to the internet, which the internet tends to be connected to
computers?
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
It astounds me, though, that something like that comes out of the mouth of a politician, especially a leftist who claims that it's the right that is always so racist against our minorities. And that is one of the most racist things I've ever heard come out of a politician's mouth.
Yeah, to argue that basically black kids haven't seen a laptop. They don't know what they are. Like, really?
Like most kids these days, I think a huge percentage of black children and black teenagers in this country have a computer in their pocket.
Yeah, in their pocket and in their schools. I mean, this is a pain point for me because I'm constantly arguing, why do we have to give computers to kids for them to do school? Like, I am an old soul when it comes to paper books, paper. They have plenty of technology here. There's no issue with them having access to technology. The real issue here is they only have access to technology, so they play with the laptops instead of actually learning a dang thing. All right, this is y'all's show today. We've got some things to talk about to keep the conversation rolling. But the Members Nutrition Super Text line, 615-737-9986, is open. And I want to hear from you. This is your show. It always is. It's great. I'll give you guys some brief background just for those of you who don't know. I do this at the beginning of every show, that I'm appreciative for my team over at Thanks in Franklin who let me take time periodically to come do fill-in. They help you grow your business with gratitude. Super awesome. I'm on the editorial board of the Tennessean. I write for AL.com. I'm a partner in a media company. That's where I'm coming from. I don't have anybody else putting money on the table and saying, I need you to say this. So that's what impacts my worldview and kind of where I am. I'm very much somebody who wants to see a better culture, better future. I think we're strung out, tired, and kind of weird. And we must do better for our kids, for our future. And so that's the lens through which I appreciate the show. And I move forward. A couple of things that you guys mentioned yesterday that I want to reiterate today, just so you guys know. Teacher Appreciation Week this week. Nurse Appreciation Week this week. Both those are pretty important constituencies, and so I very much encourage you to express that appreciation to the people who have impacted you. Whether it's taking care of your health, the health of a loved one, or taking care of your kids in school. Or how about you? Now, a lot of my teachers are retired, but man, I certainly appreciate them, and I think that's really, really positive. And then there's this other day that is coming, May 12th, Mother's Day. It begs the question, what do moms want? I need to hear from you. 615-737-9986. Let me know what, I need some ideas here.
In the words of Pantera, 5 minutes alone.
5 minutes alone. So, gonna take my wife and just lock her in the closet, and everything should be fine. And I'll tell her it was Belle's idea. Seriously, what do you get the person who guides and directs the little people in your house? Mine aren't even so little anymore. I mean, it's a big deal. My mama, who is literally a Karen, which is kind of funny, she, huge pillar in my life. And so expressing gratitude to her, moms get taken for granted all the time. Let's be honest about this. How many of y'all have heard mom, my mom, 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 mom? It's like a dispenser for good things. And that's life. And I understand with folks that have survived having kids in the house, y'all are an inspiration. Thank you. And for the moms right now that are dealing with, man, the logistics. My wife is a chief logistics officer. She's constantly figuring out what practice, what appointment, what school thing must we go to and when. Now, she's old school. She has a paper calendar. This is a point of contention in my marriage because she doesn't believe in digital calendars. I don't even know what that means. But she has I think it's actually Sandra Boynton, but not the hippopotamus calendar. And that's what she writes all of her stuff on. So if you have to check the back of the pantry door to know what's going on, most of the time I just say, hey, Mom, what's going on? And she tells me. So remember to appreciate them. Come up with something great. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think candles are overplayed. My wife, I just see the candles accumulating because it's like, I don't know what to get you. I don't know what to do. Here's another candle. Okay. I know some of you guys out there and ladies like the candles. Think that's their blankets that say something about mom. I just don't know. I'm not seeing it. The idea that Jason had yesterday of a cremation certificate seems intense. I'm still scarred by that one a little bit. But I really do want to know what you want. And we've got Maria from the borough, and she's got some ideas. What do you got, Maria?
Hi. Nice to talk to you. Well, I'm an old mom. I'm 70 years old, and so I have a lot of experience at this. And my husband of 30 years, who passed away 8 years ago, used to always buy me jewelry.
Jewelry?
So I have tons of jewelry. Yeah, tons. I appreciated it, but I don't wear half of it. You know, you can only wear a couple pieces at a time. So my ideas for Mother's Day are chocolate, of course, something that would be really self-soothing, like a massage or out to dinner. But the best gift for me would be perennial plants that you can put in the ground that come back every year.
I like that. That's a really good one. Is there anything that you have received for Mother's Day that you're like, that was the best one I ever got?
Well, I have two grandsons whose birthdays are in May, so you cannot top that.
Well, that is pretty awesome, and I'm sure they're wonderful. As a house full of boys, good luck.
Yep. I have 7 grandsons.
I hope that's 70 years young with that many grandsons. So have fun. Thank you, Maria. Thanks for the call.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So Maria's got some good ideas there. The plant idea I like because you put it in the yard. It's a good reminder. It's like, hey, you're awesome. This plant's awesome. Just don't kill the plant. That's the problem with relationship plants are always dicey to me. Like this happened when I was dating and other stuff that folks, here's a plant that's sort of connected to our relationship. And if the plant dies, I mean, the metaphor either has to die or so does your relationship. So that's the only dicey thing about plants. But the point is, say thank you. And if you're a dude like me and you're thinking, well, my wife is not my mother, that's weird, I shouldn't do anything, you're wrong. You're wrong. If you by definition, if she's a mother, she's got kids. Those kids know nothing. They don't think about this stuff. It's not even on their radar. So at a minimum, you have to inform them. And, oh, by the way, your mom is still your mom. So you got to address that too. So I put all that out there. I leave it for your consideration. Don't screw it up. Don't make it weird. And don't make it about yourself. And tell her like what you want for Father's Day, for Mother's Day. That's not great. I want to get into this issue with Van Jones now. I thought this was funny because I saw it and I saw these weird pictures coming up, and it was this is it's on CNN Opinion, Sunday, March 3rd. The headline is Van Jones, going home, I encountered a huge problem. And this is about the Tennessee Three and those folks. We'll get into that just a second. We've got more of y'all calling in about Mother's Day, so I think this is useful information to folks out there in the audience. So we need to get this first, but then we'll get to the Van Jones stuff. All right, Sharon, what do you got?
Yeah, this is a great topic. One of my favorite gifts ever that my son did, and they did it at school, but Dad could get the kids into doing this, but it was a birdhouse, like a wooden birdhouse that they painted with their fingers, finger painted.
Ooh, I
guess they painted the colors on the, one color on the wood birdhouse. And then they used like their fingers to put like yellow and then drew little lines to make little bees. So all the bees on the birdhouse are their fingerprints, and it's adorable. And it's my favorite thing I ever got. I just love it.
Well, thank you, Sharon. I think I like that idea. So a painted birdhouse with finger bees.
Yes.
All right. I like it. Thank you very much for the call. On the Super Talk text line, a couple of y'all have come in here. First of all, y'all tried to get me with the love languages, the 5 love languages. What's your wife's love language? I've read that book. I know what you're talking about, and it's acts of service. That's unequivocally the thing. So I can tell you things like, we talk about logistics. She's driving around in that, she has an expedition. She's driving around in that all the time. Cleaning that out. It's not as bad as when we had little kids, but it still gets kind of rank. And so vacuuming that out, washing it, making it nice for her. I know that's the kind of stuff that she likes, and that makes sense. Brian said he just booked an Airbnb on the Tennessee River, and he's taking his 77-year-old mom to relax for the weekend while I cook for her and entertain Dad. That's really nice, Brian. That's super, that's really great. I've got Steve. Steve, Mother's Day gift. What is it?
I was just, mothers just love, get the kids and hopefully you can cook and make breakfast and then make sure she doesn't cook lunch or dinner and just do the laundry and take out the trash and just do all the little simple things that she does, and she will appreciate that more than any gift you can give her.
I think that's right, Steve. I think you're onto it. Thanks for the call. I've got one more in Franklin. Is this Donald Trump bell? DJT. Okay. DJT, what do we got?
No, it's DJP. Hey, listen, this thing is getting out of hand now. Mother's Day is every day. I tell my mother that, and she laughs. People come up with all these
sure
ideas.
Hallmark
every
holidays.
Day they should be doing that. Every day you should be washing your mother's clothes, taking her out to dinner, calling her, okay? Enough with this nonsense that we have to have one day to remember that we got a mother. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, get with it. Will you? Come on. It's all about money. Money.
You're probably right. I'm not arguing the point. But it's the day. It is a day. In fact,
every day is Mother's Day. Every day is Father's Day. Get with it.
Yeah, we just have days, but not every day is Wednesday. How about that?
No kidding. But mother's not Wednesday. Mother's it's an everyday job. It's an everyday thing. Okay, Mom is beautiful.
Yeah,
always
it is.
Celebrate your mother. Always. You don't need a special day to remember that you have a mother or a father. You got to take care of them.
You do. Thank you very much for the call. I think that's right. Don't forget that. Just because Sunday is Mother's Day does not mean you don't need to engage and love your mom or your dad. That's really important. If we had more folks that took care of their families and one another, it'd change the culture. I really believe this. So the Super Talk text line, oh, sheesh, you people and my wife with that 5 love language crap. Shoot me now.
Well, their house sounds like it's a nice little cozy home.
Going great. Yeah, some of you guys, some of this stuff is inappropriate. You guys, I like this one. I thought this was going inappropriate, but it's actually a good idea. A thank you note in your pants pocket that if she's doing laundry, which not every mama does, but a lot do, if she finds it and it says, hey, thank you. And I think just expressing that gratitude is really, really important. And even if you don't have a perfect mom, which most of us don't, you still need to be grateful for the things that she's done for you. All right. I'm going to put a pin on that one. We got to take a break. We're going to talk about Van Jones and the Tennessee 3 when we come back. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. And am I back? Am I alive? I'm alive. I was concerned. Very concerned. I'm Cameron Smith, in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show at D. Cameron Smith over on X. Join the conversation one of these days. Hashtag TN Politics is going to take root, and that's the easy way to join the conversation over there. On the Super Talk text line, a couple of y'all have actually, we've got a report from Tim about an explosion on Air Park Drive, apparently the Federal Express building, or the FX building, and I don't know if we've got anything on that. So if you've got anything on that, please let us know. It's just initial reports from Tim, but we'll keep you guys in the loop as we've got severe weather lookout and other stuff happening, the news and other folks. If something big happens, we'll make sure to let you know. We're paying attention. As much as I want to get an encampment here and get stuck here after the show, I definitely want to pay attention and make sure I know what's going on, and I want you guys to know what's going on too. Okay, so this is an op-ed. Van Jones, not a conservative. We know that. No big deal. I usually like him in his analysis, even when I disagree with him. On this one, it just seems kind of whiny. This was his follow-on piece. He came to Tennessee, and I did not know this, that he was a legislative intern for Jimmy Knifey, who was the Speaker of the House for the Democrats. And this is before the major shift. And here's what he said about where we are now. Quote, the GOP is imposing one-party rule in a way that barely gives elected Democrats the right to speak, let alone have substantive input on any legislation, end quote. And he goes and he talked to Odessa Kelly, who seems very nice. I've met her on some different things, but she's a local organizer for the Democrats. She had a 2021 Democratic primary challenge in the 5th Congressional, and he talked to her, and then he talked to Matt Schoaf, who is a commissioner in Sumner County. And this was, I found the idea that people want the state to get out of their way, and they're frustrated with the state and the polarized this and that. Talked to two people, and then he says, one bright spot I found during my trip, ? The passion of the two Justins. Sort of like the passion of the Christ, but just the two Justins. Is undeniable. They're part of a new generation of change makers and leaders channeling that passion into a better tomorrow. These are talking points. They don't lose hope, even if the situation seems hopeless. Tennessee should act as a cautionary tale, sure, but the dynamic, spirited, vibrant people in my home state are also a source of enduring encouragement. Okay. I'm not sure what we're saying here. The one that he weaves in and the shot that he's really trying to take is the idea that this is all sort of a racial narrative. And that's where I took it, and I'm like, wait a minute. He uses the two people he talked to that weren't the Justins. And here's the quote that's kind of buried in the middle. Quote, but they both express frustration to me about what they see as the racial dynamics keeping people apart and afraid of each other. I don't know about that. I think some of the political disagreement is we disagree on policy. That's some of the things that we've seen on guns and other stuff like that, where Democrats have a very, very different approach. That's policy. That has nothing to do with race. We just don't agree on important topics to most Tennesseans. I want to follow up on this and finish this. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome back. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show, and we've been talking about a piece by Van Jones that talks about the Justins, which you've regularly heard about on this station. You've heard about them from the Tennessee legislature. More often than not, it's Justin Jones up front talking about how everyone's a racist. I don't think that we should take allegations of racism lightly. Don't be a racist, period. If you're discriminating against people on the basis of their skin color, stop. It's wrong. Full stop. There's no accommodations that anybody should hesitate or equivocate here. Where I have a problem is when the default for why you're not successful politically is that the other people are racist. That drives me absolutely insane. And Justin Jones in particular has been very vocal in that regard of calling his colleagues white supremacist and basically at every turn making his lack of success as a legislator about these shadowy racists at the Tennessee legislature. And I think it's ridiculous. And Van Jones sort of gives footing there. He's saying, Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, these guys are my hope for the future. I get it. He's a Democrat. He's a liberal. So he's saying this is the future. Gloria Johnson didn't make the cut. So it's just the Tennessee two. But my point is, why aren't we going to be better at legislating? Why aren't we going to put forth legislation that can attract votes versus just saying the folks that don't want to vote with you are racist? And I will say one of the big challenges I've seen is the heavy hand of Republicans here is over the top. My take was always just ignore them and go about your business, because they're not actually trying to seriously legislate. They're trying to bait Republicans into being upset and doing stupid things that are then recorded and then make headlines, because that's how they got their 15 minutes of fame. Is there were cameras, there were people, Republicans overplayed their hand, bounced them from the legislature, and then they came right back like a boomerang. And they have been a thorn in the side of Republicans ever since, particularly Jones. And I get into it with Senator Heidi Campbell's a good example. I regularly get into it with her on social media, because it's not that Tennessee Republicans don't know what she believes. It's just that they don't agree with her at all. And so the idea that there needs to be a certain bipartisan dialogue. Well, no, actually, if there are varying Republicans who represent the districts where they ran and they have the majority of the votes and they want to negotiate amongst themselves, the idea that it's somehow a shame that they won't entertain the ideas of people that don't want to actually work with them, that's silly. And this is coming from a guy who very much values bipartisanship. That if I agree with you on even one issue, I'll work with you. We may fight on the other issues, but I think it's silly to be like, I'm sorry, you're on the wrong team. This is different. This is, I don't want to work with you. I don't actually want to put forth things that can get the votes, and then I want to complain about it. And again, I'm happy to say Republicans should just ignore them and move about their business. Shouldn't try to, where people aren't being super disruptive, shouldn't try to eject them, should just move along. But the idea that somehow Republicans don't consider what the fringe Democrats want means they're racist, I don't care how far you bury that in a column, it's inappropriate, and it's not something that we should take lightly, because it's nothing. It's a nothing burger. Van Jones's conclusion on his opinion piece, I can tell you, says nothing. It's fluffy words about the two Justins, and that they're encouraging. Well, what would be probably more encouraging if the two justices were relevant, because they're not trying to be fringe Democrats. They're saying, hey, guys, we can take these positions on gun control and things like that to the legislature, but we're just going to get ignored. Hey, what about this? How about tax credits for safety locks or gun safes or things like that? Putting those things on the table. But that's not what they want. They want the talking point, and that's the problem. That's what makes this so foolish. This is, again, Senator Campbell and I had this exchange repeatedly where she's talking about she wants to prosecute folks for basically accidents with guns. Prosecute the parents. If a kid gets hurt, prosecute them with guns. Or not prosecute them with guns. Prosecute them for the gun accidents. I pulled the numbers and I said, well, most gun accidents, they're actually relatively few that are true accidents. Gun homicides are mostly intentional. They're either suicide or homicide. There are some accidents, but if we're looking at the relative number of gun accidents, then we need to start penalizing parents for not teaching their kids swim lessons and allowing for drownings and teach them how to use ladders. Because if you look at the raw number of deaths that are preventable basically due to accidents, when you look at true accidents, you need to be consistent here. And I'll put this out for you guys because I had a moment the other day where I asked Senator Campbell point blank online. It's there. You can go read it right now. You can go check out my Twitter account. It's all there. It's available for public consumption. I said, well, I lost my brother to suicide as a teenager. It was fully his choice. It's not something that I love or am excited about. But you would prosecute my parents as criminals for a choice that my teenage brother made. And she would. She would go after my grieving parents, and only a monster would do that type of thing. But that's what happens when you run on talking points and don't think through the practical impacts, is you reach some kind of weird conclusions that may not be consistent. And I asked her about it, didn't blink. And I don't want Republicans to look at her, for example, and say, I really want to work with her. Because some of her ideas when it comes to free speech, when it comes to basically civil liberties, gun rights, speech, things like that, are atrocious. And so then to say, well, Republicans didn't do these things, therefore we have a massive problem. No, we don't. We run legislative ideas through majorities. That's how we do it in America. And so if you find yourself in a small, insular minority, that's okay. But you got choices to make about what compromises you're going to make so the majority will work with you, not the other way around. And that's what Van Jones is basically saying is, well, Tennessee has to do this the way I want in spite of what the people who elected the folks want. So take it for what you will. I just wanted to throw that out there because it seemed silly. You know what else seems silly? This Alvin Bragg trial in New York. Let's talk about this for just a moment. We're a couple weeks into this thing, and we're still not super clear what the underlying crime that led to the document crimes is. And then we just had, because this is family radio and we don't want to go into all the lurid details, Stormy Daniels up there providing very specific details down to Old Spice and Perk Plus about her encounters with Donald Trump. I mean, good grief, folks. This is about a documents issue. Did you falsify documents to cover up an underlying crime? While you can say what you want about it, Donald Trump having an affair, sleeping with a porn star, it's not a crime. It's just not. And so we're trying to connect a lot of dots here in a case that the DOJ was like, we don't want to, this election case, we're not doing that. We're not pushing this one. We got these other ones, but this one, that's a bridge too far. That doesn't seem like that dog will hunt. Well, Alvin Bragg thought it would. And so they're putting this case on, and then you've got a judge who's saying, I wish that wasn't useful. I wish that wasn't said, but isn't declaring a mistrial. So this is just bonkers. It is weird because this whole testimony was basically to smear Trump, to say, yes, in fact, he had this affair. It was this way. She knows a lot of specific details about it because Trump has denied the affair and said no. Again, irrelevant to the case at hand. It's just not. Whether the affair happened or not, there was an agreement and money exchanged trying to get her to not talk. So what actually happened is irrelevant. It just is, and yet that gets brought out. Why? So that the jurors are like, this is a really bad guy. And the hating Trump is not a legal theory. Let's just put a fine point on it. Hating Trump is not a legal theory. The idea that you decide he's terrible and he needs to go to jail for some things because he's a bad guy. I don't love the guy. Consider me a double hater. I don't like Biden. I don't like Trump really. But to prosecute him in this way, where it is about pageantry and drama versus the underlying case, is ridiculous. I hope this case ultimately gets dismissed, that a judge is like, guys, you're not making a case here. You have been inflammatory in front of the jury. This ain't going. But if nothing else, I think the judge has committed reversible error here so that he can get bounced on appeal for letting this kangaroo court go on. And this is coming from a guy that's not a Trump acolyte. I'm not running around talking about how wonderful he is and that he can't do any wrong and treating him like a Republican Pope. This is a situation where he doesn't deserve this. We got to take a break, but when we come back, what about the other cases? There's several other cases, and I want to kind of go down the status list to kind of let you guys know what's up, what the timing looks like. We're keeping an eye on the radar. Make sure you guys are safe. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome back. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show. Lindsay asked so nicely that I wish a happy late birthday to Travis R. in the F&M Bank chat. Travis, I'm sorry you had to wait all day yesterday, but today's a good day too. So there you go. And you can thank Lindsay for that because she's just really nice. And she told me she liked my hibiscus Hawaiian shirt yesterday. So that was quite solid. A couple of you guys have made some comments that I think are worth repeating. Most of Jason's are not. He did talk about the sexual appeal of Old Spice and Pert Plus. That's quite high. So I don't know about the rest of you ladies out there, but I remember my grandfather's glass bottle of Old Spice with a little plug in the top. And that's all I can think of when I think of Old Spice, is that bottle that's set on his bathroom counter. And I know that there are so many other fancy things that are out there now, but if Donald Trump is a Pert Plus and Old Spice guy, he's old school. So there's that. I don't want, because we're running out of time at this hour, I want to get into the status of the different cases and sort of their respective merits and kind of what I think is going to happen at the top of next hour. I'll say this Alvin Bragg case has damaged all the other cases. And I mean that in the court of public opinion. Because it's pretty easy to see that this one is, well, I guess we got to go after him for political reasons. How can we get him? Let's construct a case and then hope it all works out. I mean, that's what's happened here. You can call it lawfare. You can call it whatever you want. But it's not a strong case, to put it mildly. And that, to me, is sort of the problem here, is New York is looking ridiculous because take Donald Trump out of this. Imagine you're in a situation where you're a New York businessman that says, okay, I'm looking for loans to do real estate deals, whatever. If I don't accurately reflect things, I mean, think about the cost this is imposing just to make sure that you don't do anything that somebody could then use as a political lever later on. I'm all fine with prosecuting folks for things that create harm to other people. If you say, hey, Donald Trump lied in a way that led to a financial loss, then that's a different animal. But to say, actually, these folks, these banks that are lending these large sums, they're going to do their independent verification and they decided to loan it anyway. And oh, by the way, they made money. Okay. I mean, I guess I can give you the law in New York is the law in New York. And so as a rule of law thing, then that should be, well, frankly, you shouldn't have a law like that. I mean, you just shouldn't. So I don't know if he ends up going down for this one, but it just looks silly. It looks like a kangaroo court right now. And I think it impacts some of the others that may actually have more merit. And so this is bad for any of the prosecutors that are looking to get Trump on the hook and say, no, you actually did this and you committed a crime. Because this one, I don't think it's there. Y'all come back for the next 2 hours. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the great Matt Murphy Show. And you're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. At a Senate hearing today, concerns and criticism after Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin confirmed the U.S. has paused some, not all, weapons shipments to Israel due to questions, he says, on how Israel is using them in the latest military operation in Rafah and civilians trapped in Gaza's southern city. Austin says they delayed sending 3,500 bombs, which he explained are not as precise.
A small diameter bomb, which is a precision weapon that's very useful in a dense built-up environment. It's helpful, but maybe not so much a 2,000-pound bomb that could create a lot of collateral damage.
Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham, say the U.S. should give Israel what it needs to fight Hamas.
If we stop weapons necessary to destroy the enemies of the state of Israel at a time of great peril, we will pay a price.
The UN today says no aid has gotten into Gaza, and hospitals in Rafah reporting at least 25 people arrived with injuries following Israeli shelling. President Biden in Racine, Wisconsin today touting a new project, announcing Microsoft will invest more than $3 billion in an AI facility. An appeals court in Georgia agreeing to review a judge's ruling in the Georgia election interference case that allows DA Fani Willis to remain on that case. The request filed by Donald Trump's attorneys. More from ABC's Aaron Katursky.
The Trump team wants to appeal the decision. They would like Fani Willis kicked off the case entirely. The judge has ruled that Fani Willis could stay as long as her former paramour, Nathan Wade, was removed from the case to avoid even the appearance of any kind of a conflict. So he's off the case. Fani Willis is on.
Trump's hush money payment trial not in session today. Tomorrow, Stormy Daniels expected to retake the stand. The Olympic torch on board a ship has arrived in Marseille's Old Port. It marks a milestone journey in the countdown to the Summer Games in Paris. You're listening to ABC News.
Looking at the screen It looks like tornado warning in Todd and Logan counties. Lewisburg looks kind of red. We'll keep you in the loop as this stuff happens. I'm Cameron Smith, filling in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show. We were just about to get into the case status of the prosecutions against former President Donald Trump. The New York, we're calling it the hush money case. That's the one that Stormy Daniels just testified in. And it's been going for weeks. And Judge Merchan on Tuesday rejected Trump's bid for a mistrial after Daniels' testimony. Basically, his attorneys argued this was deeply inflammatory, had no purpose, was not legally relevant. Trump has been in contempt of court 10 times in this case already, and he's been fined, I think it's $1,000 or something like that. And he's been warned that he could end up in jail. This begs a change of the laws as well, because I get it. If you have a judicial order, it needs to be respective, even in a case that's silly. And $1,000 is nothing to Trump, so he can just kind of ignore it. But the idea of putting him in jail for running his mouth, man, that sounds extreme. It just does. And I think the blowback from something like that, not just in New York, but across the country, to say, you wanted him in jail so bad, you have a very weak case come to trial, and then when he's talking about the witnesses and the judge and saying these things, you use that to put him in jail? Ooh, that doesn't sound good to me. I will talk about the classified documents case in just a second, because I think that's actually the strongest case. In Georgia, we have high drama as well. The Trump and 18 other folks were indicted last August. You remember all of the drama around that. But then Fani Willis, who is the district attorney that's running with the case, hired a paramour as one of the other attorneys on the case. And then Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee ruled in March Willis could stay, but her man friend had to go. And then on Wednesday, I guess today, a Georgia appeals court agreed to review McAfee's ruling that allowed Willis to stay on the case. So we're still messing with this stuff back and forth, but because we're dealing with the proceedings concerning Willis, we don't really have a clear timeline. McAfee's dismissed several counts against Trump already, but we had an August 5 date, and we're just kind of hanging out on that one. January 6th, election interference case. There's 4 counts last August that relate to the 2020 election. Trump is charged with conspiracy to defraud the U.S., conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Trump's pleaded not guilty. It was supposed to begin in early March, but this was postponed because of Trump's immunity claims. And the Supreme Court just heard that case on, I guess that was April 25th. So it seems incredibly unlikely that that election case is unlikely to begin before the November election. And that basically leaves the 4th one, which is the classified documents case. That one was just indefinitely postponed because they had all these pretrial motions related to classified documents. This is the classified documents case. I think this, of all the ones that are out there, this one to me has the most teeth. Legal theory is pretty clear. The things that Trump did were pretty clear. There's that y'all probably have forgotten by now because so much happens in politics. There was a superseding indictment that basically said, oh, yeah, not only did you do this stuff, you attempted to cover it up. That was Walt Nauta and those folks. Again, I think that this is the toughest one for him to wiggle on. But it doesn't look like it's getting tried anytime soon either, because it relates to classified documents and both sides have to agree, like, how are we going to treat these things? We've got to be able to talk about them. We've got to be able to do this stuff. But, oh, by the way, they're classified. So that's what they're dealing with. So the whole point here is that it looks like this goofy hush money trial case is the only one that's going to be done before the election. I don't think it really matters. I don't think that there's anybody here who hasn't already made up their mind on Trump one way or another. You can call in the Members Nutrition Super Text line, 615-737-9986, and let me know what you think. I just don't see a situation where anybody's looking at this and saying, well, I'm going to support Trump unless they get a conviction in this hush money case. I'm going to support Trump unless they get a conviction in this documents case. I don't know that it adds much here. I have not talked to them. I know a lot of independent voters. I know a lot of folks that are, I don't like the political climate. I don't like being told that I have to vote for a team. This is what's hilarious is I've got the Trump acolytes saying, if you don't vote for Donald Trump, you're voting for Joe Biden. And the Never Trumpers and the Democrats are telling me, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you're voting for Donald Trump. And I just don't buy that. My vote's my vote. I get to decide. I don't care. If Trump doesn't earn my vote, he doesn't get it. If Biden doesn't earn my vote, he doesn't get it. The idea that I'm somehow vicariously voting for somebody if I don't vote for somebody, stop it. Stop that. But that's where we are. That's the situation. And I think, I get it. The Stormy Daniels testimony was designed to smear Trump and make him look like a bad guy. If it's, okay, Democrats are trying to do this, a couple of things we need to be careful with. Henry Cuellar, there's Menendez. There's several prominent Democrats right now that are being prosecuted by the Biden Justice Department. So the idea that this is just partisan in one direction, that's not accurate. The argument that these cases aren't particularly strong, I think, takes more merit. But again, and I'm not saying they're irrelevant. I'm just simply saying, tell me somebody, show me somebody who is waiting for the pending outcome of these cases to decide whether they're going to support Trump or not. I just don't know that many people. I've yet to meet someone who said, well, I'd like to vote for him, but if he gets convicted on the documents case, I guess I'm out. And so I do think it's kind of a moot point here from a political standpoint. I do think all of these are baked into the cake. I don't actually believe, I wanted to give you all the status update for two reasons. One, I was curious, and two, I know that several of y'all it's hard to track all this. And so you're telling me that this is matter? Okay, so I'll give you something little. Trump's tied up. He has to be in that courtroom. So he's not out giving campaign speeches. He's not in Wisconsin. Biden there was, I think it was a Foxconn facility that is now being taken over by Microsoft, and Biden is going out there to say, well, Trump's fault, that Trump doesn't follow through and bad things happen. Just a traditional political slam speech of, I'm so great on the economy, Trump is not. I don't think anybody buys it, but the fact is that Trump can't be out there if he's tied up. And so he is tied up right now. He does have to be here for this trial. It is dragging. And the politics are bad for him on it. They just are. Again, I don't know in this hush money trial if that jury says they've proven the prosecution's proven its case and that he's convicted. I can't imagine a world in where it's not appealed, but I guess we'll find out.
Hey, Cameron, not to interrupt, but we have a National Weather Service alert that there's a tornado watch for Sumner, Cheatham, Dixon, Wilson, Macon, Davidson, Montgomery, Robertson, Trousdale, and Smith counties, which started at 1:15 and will end at 9:15 p.m. So if you're in one of those counties, there is a tornado watch, which means conditions are favorable.
Yeah. So I've been actually following this over on X, looking at some of the different forecasters. And the big thing is, and this is never good, when it looks like a lot of the major action is going to happen late at night, like moving towards midnight tonight. And so, again, those conditions update. But thankfully, we have more ways than ever to track these, to figure out what's going on. Don't fool around with this stuff, folks. Don't try to risk it. I mean, if you know this stuff's coming, let's try to be safe late at night, that sort of thing. Don't try to go out and say, hey, I want to do a little jaunt downtown. Let's just be careful, because we don't want anybody in this listening audience or anyone to get hurt. And man, when we get severe weather, we know what that's like. Our community's experienced it, and it is really rough. So let's try to pay attention, be aware. Basic stuff, folks, of, hey, if you're in a mobile home or in a situation and these straight line winds start coming, weathering out the storm inside those is a bad idea. Go to the interior room, make sure that you're protecting yourself. In my family, we have so many football helmets, we just put those on and hang out in the pantry. It's great, but take care of yourself.
That's a wonderful visual.
It's hilarious, man. We're either in the pantry or the guest bathroom right there, and we got helmets and sleeping bags and whatever.
It's like that scene in Weird Science where they're trying to create the girl and they're both wearing the bras on their heads, but football helmets instead.
Yeah. My boys, they know this now because they know that the helmets are heavier. Now they're lighter than they used to be, but the football helmets, they wear them ahead of the season anyway, so they can get used to them. So it's not uncommon in my house to have folks just wandering around in football helmets. It's very, very strange to the outside observer, but it's just a Tuesday night at my house, just sitting on the couch doing homework in a football helmet, and that happens all the time. Another thing to make sure is, particularly your elderly neighbors and folks who live alone. One, there's never a bad excuse to go talk to your neighbor and say, hey, are you doing okay? Do you want to, how about having dinner with us tonight and doing some stuff like that? But look out for your neighbors. I am very privileged to live in a place in Nolensville where my neighbors, I know them. We do stuff together. They look out for my kids. If they need something, we help them out. But this is a great opportunity where particularly if you got somebody living alone, do what you can to help them and engage them and support them in a severe weather type scenario, because it's better riding out those things together than being stuck by yourself. That's just the truth. So do that. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome back. Got an update from Tim about the Air Park Center Drive explosion. He's saying that FX is a fireworks company that does pyrotechnics for Nissan Stadium. I had misinterpreted the way that he had typed it in there. And apparently what Tim said is that his building is approximately 120 yards away, and there was an explosion there that shook the ground, and there was a lot of smoke from the building, and it looks like 3 people transported to Vanderbilt with non-critical injuries. Glad it seems like folks are okay, but anytime you have an explosion in that area, it's something that folks notice. A couple of you have pointed out some stuff on the Super Talk text line about these cases, and one of y'all said, and I think this is a sentiment shared by a lot of folks, it's not that I've decided on Trump, it's that it can't be Biden. Trump is the only viable choice for my vote. I think that there are a lot of Americans that find themselves in that position, that they're not in love with Trump. They recognize that the distractions, the unnecessary stuff, the ego, they're not the red hat wearing MAGA folks. But then they look at Biden and are like, this guy's terrible. I don't know if you guys saw it, but at the Holocaust Museum, Biden finally decides he's going to deliver a speech on what's been going around on the college campuses. And it's strange. It's done. We've seen a ferocious surge of anti-Semitism in America and around the world. It's absolutely despicable, and it must stop. It's just late to the party, man. This has been awful, and it's been ongoing, and we've been, according to your press secretary, you've been monitoring. But then to come out, I guess it's good that you finally came around and said, yeah, this is really bad. We shouldn't have this. I don't think this was a tough call, though. And so that's what people see as they look at Joe Biden, and it's barely there. There's nothing that people get excited about and say, yep, that's the guy that's going to lead us to a bright future. And Harris is VP. Imagine a situation where you're the one people like less than Biden. And I think that's where we're finding ourselves politically, is it's just Biden so bad. And Trump has his things, and I understand that we all do every election that I've been a part of in my adult life has been historic. And everybody has told me in every election that if we don't win this one, America's done. That's a lie. It's not. If Donald Trump doesn't win, democracy will not die. If Donald Trump wins, democracy will not die. We the people, we decide if democracy lives or dies by the way we behave and what we do. And yeah, we need to be less angry and not weird. But I don't think we're there yet. Sam says it's not just Biden, it's the whole Democratic Party. Democratic Party. We're calling them demons. I hear you, Sam. I don't look at the Democratic Party and say, man, that's an agenda for me. But I don't think they're evil, terrible people. I think they disagree with me. And they've got half the votes. That's the other thing we need to just acknowledge, is this is a very split country politically, Republican, Democrat. That's the truth. Now, here in Tennessee is not that split. Tennessee's overwhelming Republican. So it's easy for us in Tennessee to say, well, they're the worst, because they don't really have any say-so here. We talked about that earlier in the show. It's not as if Democrats have sway. They're just more of the thorn in the side politically. But nationally, it's pretty split. That's the truth. I mean, this is going to be a close election. I'd be shocked if it's more than a couple points. What I want to know and what I want to hear from you guys about is, and I cannot even believe I'm saying this. I can't. Talk to me about RFK Jr. on the Members Nutrition Super Text line, 615-737-9986. I started off when I heard about his candidacy being, this is a weirdo who sounds like a frog. And I have had more people come up to me talking about him because of his stance on vaccines, corporate America, even the environment. I see populist Republicans who don't like Trump saying, well, here's a guy who will push back against corporations that frankly don't care about me. He'll hold them accountable. And that is really, that sentiment is gaining serious traction in the Republican Party. I don't know about whether he is, but I know the sentiment is. And so I started looking into his candidacy. There's a lot of things here. His State of the Union response was the best of any candidate. I'll just say that. He put a video. It was 10 minutes long. It was unbelievable. Loved it. Loved every part of it. I'm not saying he's my guy. I'm simply saying I loved every part of that. And then there's another more lengthy video that he put out there that's narrated by Woody Harrelson. Again, it was actually really good. Like, it talks about who he is. And from the other two major campaigns, I don't see that. I don't see anything, really. I see social media ads that are like, do you stand with Trump on this? Or Donald Trump needs your support. I've seen Joe Biden stuff a little bit. But I look at this RFK stuff and I'm like, this guy's actually interesting. His first campaign manager is Dennis Kucinich. So the idea that I can get there is probably not going to happen. But I'm looking at him as the chaos candidate, as a Ross Perot. And I actually started looking into, well, what would happen if he somehow prevented Donald Trump or Joe Biden from getting 270 in the Electoral College? I got the answer. And I'll tell you on the other side of the break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. All right. So, talking about RFK Jr., I get it. He's not the guy. But at a time when it's a close call election, he could be the decider between Biden and Trump. So I pulled up, I was intrigued. I wanted to know what would happen if nobody gets 270 electoral votes. I don't know if you guys knew this, but then the presidential election leaves the electoral college process and goes to, Bell, do you know?
House of Representatives.
To Congress. It actually goes to both. This is what's kind of weird. The House of Representatives elects the president from the 3 presidential candidates who receive the most electoral votes. So my guess is in this election, it's going to be Biden, Trump, and RFK Jr. Here's where it starts to get weird. Each state delegation has 1 vote, and it's up to the individual states to determine how to vote. D.C. doesn't get to vote, sorry. The candidate must receive at least 26 votes to be elected president. The Senate's also involved. This is what I just hadn't looked in years, but I seem to remember some things. The Senate elects the vice president from the 2 vice presidential candidates with the most electoral votes. Each senator casts 1 vote for vice president. A candidate has to get 51 votes to be elected. If the House of Representatives fails to elect a president by Inauguration Day, the vice president-elect serves as acting president until the deadlock is resolved in the House. So,
wait a minute. The vice president-elect?
Mm-hmm.
What if we don't know who that is?
Well, the odds are you're going to have one or the other. If you had both, you had like a lockup in the Senate. I guess in the Senate, because you have a tiebreaker, you would necessarily, because there's only 2 candidates in the Senate, right? So the other one could have 3.
So the current vice president would effectively end up deciding who the next vice president is, who is acting president.
Right.
Got it.
So you've got 2 candidates and you've got a tiebreaker mechanism. It's just, well, I guess you wouldn't even have a tiebreaker in there because you'd have to have the tiebreaker. It'd have to be 50-50. You got 2 candidates, you got a tiebreaker, Senate votes. Yeah. So, yeah, that could happen.
Because that's the vice president's one constitutional power is to break ties in the Senate.
Right. So this is what could happen. So I love that spoiler because I'm a nerd. And I'm like, okay, this could be fun. Instead of the Electoral College, where we sit up and watch like the map color red and blue overnight, and then somebody gets declared. Yay. This sounds way more fun. And could you imagine a scenario where you had a split ticket? Where you had let's just say folks looked at it and you would probably end up with a Republican based on the House makeup. I haven't done the math based on state delegations, but because the larger states are typically blue with the exception of Texas and Florida, I'm guessing you would probably have a Republican president and a Democratic vice president. Yeah. And I think that'd be wild, but that could happen.
Then you would see the vice president have absolutely no power at all in government anymore.
I don't hate the idea of a split ticket like that.
Is your vice president going to be at the border czar? He ain't gonna be nothing.
Right. I think that could be very interesting. I don't think that's likely to happen because I pulled up 92, which is the election with Perot. And this was Bill Clinton, George Bush. Clinton got 370, Bush got 168. Perot got 19,741,065 popular votes, but no electoral votes. So that's the issue here. I was looking at, could this even be a thing? Because there's a part of me that's just like, I might support this guy just to get it to Congress and do it differently. But I just don't see a pathway. Brookings had a piece out on it showing that he's, okay, even if he gets in the ballot, where is he going to win an electoral college vote? And it's just real hard to see where he becomes that popular that quickly, because most folks are already RD and that's it.
Well, the weird thing about it is Perot actually had a shot. And then I remember him doing that speech where he bailed on his candidacy because he said he didn't want it being thrown to the House of Representatives. And then what was it? 2 weeks later, he's like, I changed my mind. I'm back in.
Yeah, he did the weird thing.
And suddenly it's like, okay, we were going to vote for this guy, but he's a little bit of a flip-flopper, so maybe not.
Yeah. So I think that's where I am. And I'm not passing judgment on RFK Jr. one way or another, saying you can't like him or you should. I'm just, man, as a chaos candidate, it sounds interesting, but I just don't see him having any pathway to deny 270 to either Biden or Trump. And furthermore, I do think he could be the spoiler. I do think in a swing state where he picks up enough percents to knock it one way or another. I don't know yet. I've seen polling both directions that he hurts Trump, he hurts Biden, because Trump voters who hate vaccines love RFK Jr. Biden voters who have nostalgia for Kennedy may see the Kennedy name and go over there. But I don't think we're in a situation where it's really abundantly clear right now that RFK helps or hurts one particular candidate. But he could certainly mess up he could take victory away from somebody here in this election, because it will be close. So just wanted to throw that out there. The fact that we're here and there's Trump and Biden, they're both old. I'm not excited. I'm much more aligned with Trump's policies than anything Biden puts. I don't even know if Biden knows what his policies are. He is such a. I was talking to Matt Murphy about this a couple weeks ago.
That's a serious question, right?
Yes, he's so out of it that it makes me look at Trump and say,
"Give me a break."
It makes me look at Trump and say, "Well, he's the one that at least he's there. He may be crazy, but
one of the things I've noticed on Twitter is how the left is going after Trump for being sleepy and disengaged, especially around the trial."
Yes.
And it's like, did you guys think this was a winning strategy on your candidate, so you decided to adopt it?
I'll tell you what was hilarious is RFK Jr., I believe, is 70. And in this piece, I was watching it last night with the Woody Harrelson narrates. They highlight that he can do 11 pull-ups. And
that's in pretty good shape for his age.
I can't do 11 pull-ups. I'll be the first to say that. But the fact that we're coming up with old man tests of strength, 11 pull-ups is legit. I'm fine with that one. But it was his sort of like throwing down the gauntlets, being like, how many pizza boxes could Trump carry? Doesn't matter. 11 pull-ups. And that's where I just see us, and I would support it, getting to my dad can beat up your dad type thing in the political, in the upcoming election, the candidates talking about their virility. Yeah. And how strong they are and how good they are.
I haven't ever used Viagra.
I am so good at golf. All the best golf.
Have you seen this new story where RFK supposedly admitted he had a parasite worm in his brain, and the doctors found it?
That's good. I'm glad.
Tracking right through my cerebellum.
I'm glad. No, well, I will say in his piece, it is refreshing honesty. I had heroin addiction or something, and I've been clean for this. I always appreciate politicians that are honest about that stuff. This goes back, compare and contrast with the Kristi Noem. I've been to the DMZ. I talked to Kim. No, I will not tell you about my conversation.
We shot dogs together.
And here's RFK being like, I can do 11 pull-ups, and I had a drug addiction, and I'm over it. And Noam is just getting mad at Newsmax. And it's just, the moment we're in politically is so weird. And we've got so many very strange characters in it. But I definitely want to see the virility contest come up. I want to see old man feats of strength. I want to see, like, how fast they can walk a mile or something like that. Like,
the scariest thing to me about RFK, beyond the second scariest thing, beyond all the extreme leftist positions he actually does hold, is that if you close your eyes, he sounds like Betty Davis right before she died on David Letterman. His voice is just so shaky and constricted.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people that are going to look at him and be like, he's not the other guys. When do I get a candidate where I'm just so excited about the candidate? When is that going to happen?
Don't.
I feel like here are your options. We have sanded cauliflower. We have liquid plumber over broccoli. And we have rancid chicken. So which one would you like? I
would like spoiled pudding, please.
That's how I feel. It's so frustrating politically to be in a situation where I'm just not that excited about anybody. And I understand, I see y'all on the Super Talk text line, well, you should be excited about this. This is a thing.
The Libertarian Party, which is a clown show of ineffectiveness, is going to host is offered to host a RFK Trump debate at their national convention that right now would not even include the Libertarian candidate.
I love that. And at this point, I'm it's called the Jim Halpert hypothetical from The Office. Jim Halpert in the show The Office always says yes to hypotheticals. So if someone, most notably Michael Scott, comes up to him and says, well, hypothetically, if you were an alligator, would you prefer bear or pig? And he's just like, yes, let's do it. Let's go.
I'm all in.
Let's do it. And that's how I feel about the political moment of like, come on, let's go. Let's just do it. Let's do a RFK Jr. Trump debate. Let's throw Biden in there. Let's arm wrestle.
Let's add some nitrous to this engine and just punch it.
Let's see who's going to win. And Jason says, you're acting like there's not another candidate. The Libertarian Party has not announced who their candidate will be yet. So,
no, but the Libertarian Party has proven its ineffectiveness at... I tend to vote Libertarian, and I do it for ballot access reasons, and because I usually hate the other candidate.
Which is fair.
But the Libertarian Party has just proven its ineffectiveness at getting out there and being competitive.
The Green Party has a better campaign apparatus than the Libertarian Party.
Absolutely.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Jill Stein and co. I can tell you her name as a Green Party person. The only person I really know associated with the Libertarian Party is that Vermin Supreme guy who wore a boot on his head.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I mean, I'm much more educated on the party than the average person is, just because I tend to vote Libertarian. But at some point,
who's the most noteworthy Libertarian in the last 10 years?
Actual party member or Libertarian
candidate for president?
Joe. I voted for Joe Jorgensen last time.
Okay, and I would argue that most folks in a state like Tennessee have maybe heard the name,
maybe,
but probably not.
But again, I knew she wasn't going to win. But for ballot access reasons, I felt like that was the best place to use my vote.
Which is crazy because as somebody who has libertarian leanings, I don't understand. Like, that seems like the right answer, right? Having a great libertarian candidate who comes up and says, free markets, individual liberty, we're going to leave you alone. We're not going to spend like we're drunk. Let's do it. And yet you just don't get high profile candidates. You don't see members of Congress. It's like pick an R, pick a D, get over it.
Well, in the Libertarian Party's defense, it is very difficult to get individualists to rally together like they're collectivists. It's not an easy thing to do.
By definition, we're bad at this.
Yes.
I know, I get that. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, there's the Ron Paul. I see the Ron Paul. It's there. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation and round out the hour, and then we've got one more to go. I'm Cameron Smith, and this is Super Talk 99.7. Welcome back. We're winding down the second hour of the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Cameron Smith. I hail from Nolensville. You should go check it out. It's not close to anything, but it's sort of close to everything. That wouldn't make for a very good town motto, but you get the idea. Several of you on the Super Talk text line have made the point that this is just about who's done a better job. We have two reference candidates, one in Trump, one in Biden. Did you like it more under Trump or under Biden? And that's how you vote. That's fair. I don't begrudge anybody the ability to do that. I'm simply saying I don't like the idea that this is the best we got. I understand that you're a realist and you're saying, well, there's only two options here, so just pick the one you like better. All right, that's fair. That is a very coherent way of looking at the election. Several of y'all have pointed out that RFK is just a lefty hiding behind vaccines with no path forward. Again, a fair take. And y'all keep mentioning Ron Paul, but Bell correctly pointed out that Ron Paul is a Republican. He might be a libertarian Republican, which is, I think there's a lot of Republicans who are libertarians, and they just realize that the Republican Party is viable. Libertarian is not. Come back for the next hour. We'll have a good time. 1 hour left on the Matt Murphy Show, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
Two o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 80 degrees, mostly cloudy right now in Nashville, but we do remain weather aware today. All sorts of severe weather on the table in Middle Tennessee. Right now, we've got a tornado watch in effect in portions of Middle Tennessee. As I get there, Tennessee counties include, this will be until 9 p.m. Cheatham, Dixon, Humphreys, Montgomery, Putnam, Stewart, Wilson, Clay, Fentress, Jackson, Overton, Robertson, Sumner, Davidson, Houston, Macon, Pickett, Smith, Trousdale counties, all until 9 p.m. for a tornado watch. We've got a flood watch remaining in effect again today as well until tomorrow morning, and that's in most of Middle Tennessee, Bedford, Cannon, Cheatham, Clay, Coffee, Cumberland, Davidson, DeKalb, Dixon, Fentress, Grundy, Hickman, Houston, Humphreys, Jackson, Lewis, Macon, Marshall, Murray. You get the picture. Trousdale, Van Buren, Warren, White, Williamson, and Wilson counties. Again, that is until tomorrow morning. We'll give you a complete weather outlook coming up in just a few minutes. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin shared how the Defense Department plans to provide aid to Ukraine in light of the $61 billion in foreign aid Congress passed. Christine Cordero has the details.
Secretary Lloyd Austin told senators on Capitol Hill today it's hard to buy back time on Ukraine.
Without this help, Ukraine would have a very tough time defending against what is a superior force with the Russians.
Secretary Austin said the department put critical weapons like air defense interceptors and artillery munitions in a position to move quickly when the aid bill was approved.
And as we have drawn down some of our stocks and provided weapons and vehicles to Ukraine, we'll replace those weapons with newer models.
And that is the latest news. Weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Welcome back to the last hour of the Matt Murphy Show. I'm Cameron Smith filling in. We do have a tornado watch in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. It's got 19 counties. In Middle Tennessee, we've got Cheatham, Clay, Davidson, Dixon, Fentress, Houston, Humphreys, Jackson, Macon, Montgomery, Overton, Pickett, Putnam, Robertson, Smith, Stewart, Sumner, Trousdale, and Wilson. And there are a host of other cities not in those counties that are also included. Urge you guys to check that out. It's basically, if you draw a line from Franklin to Murfreesboro and then north, that's kind of the area that we're talking about up to the state line. So we got a tornado watch there until 9 p.m. And this could be really interesting because y'all could have some really rough weather north, and folks south might not get hit quite as hard, but we will keep announcing that to make sure you guys are informed and safe. And so that's the goal. Speaking of informing and being safe, periodically when I'm on either Matt's show or filling in, I talk to you guys about foster parenting. It's something that my wife and I have done now, or I should say our family's done for several years. It's not just my nuclear family. It's my brother, his wife. We've got a lot of crew coming through our homes. And y'all have seen, and we've talked about the DCS reports, the comptroller's reports that have talked about and highlighted the issues with DCS. The state is still working on a lot of those things, and we're moving in a different direction. The problem is folks still need, we've got the warning. We've got the warning. Oh, so the web folks, y'all are still there. We've got a warning locally, so it's in my ears right now that's going over the warning. So we're trying to keep people here safe, but appreciate you guys being on the web. My apologies. I didn't recognize that there was a split. It's a little unnerving hearing that screeching sound. You guys know what we're talking about. And it's telling people about the warning. The severe weather here is something we can't mess around with. So people are engaging this, and I want to hold off a little bit on the conversation about foster parenting because I want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to hear that. And so folks on air right now can't hear some of that. But we've got, actually, it's not just in Tennessee. We've got severe weather north. I'm looking at the screen, and it's everywhere. And so we're looking at straight line winds about 80 miles per hour in some of these instances that are pretty serious. So I'll pull in a couple of y'all that are on the video because I can see you on the Super Talk text line. You said you look for the lesser of two weasels for your political preferences, which is an interesting way of looking at it. But I don't like the idea of that's our choice every time, that it's lesser of two evils, lesser of two evils, lesser of two evils. I want to avoid that. I got to say, are we back, Belle? Okay. Thank you all for hearing that warning. Again, stay safe, folks. When that happens, we get a warning that comes through from the emergency broadcast system, and our online people hear one thing. Our terrestrial-based audience hears the warning. So I didn't want to jump into foster parenting, and y'all miss half the conversation. So I want to circle back to that. My family's been doing this, and the one thing that keeps happening is we need families to house these kids. We're with Youth Villages. If you hear this and you're one of the brave souls that wants to take on therapeutic foster care, tell them that you heard Cameron Smith on the radio talking about it, and go do the training, go learn, and see if that's something that might be for you. Even if you're not there for therapeutic foster care, just being a foster parent, doing respite care, doing something, because we've had a couple kids recently who've come to stay with us briefly because they didn't have anywhere to go. And I wish I could tell you some happy story of it's always the good scenarios, but it's not, right? It's things that aren't ideal. And the workers at youth villages, folks at DCS, are trying to figure this out. And these kids just need a home. Like that, I can't put it another way. I can't make it more simple for people to consider. And it can be really tough. And you know, my oldest son, who we call the Beast, he was having a moment because one of these kids, it just wasn't necessarily a good fit. And he's like, you know, why are they at my house? And my wife just bluntly responded because they don't have one. And for some reason, that really connected with him. And he's like, oh. And he's able to kind of keep going because it's not just the parents that this takes a toll on to help these kids. It's your other kids too. Now, are my kids better off for fostering? Yeah. They've learned a lot. They understand what it's like to have the supports that they do, and they do not take it for granted. To having adults to help them kind of work through their emotions, to have somebody that's there for them day in and day out, to have that stability of knowing where they're going to be, where their next meal's coming from, what's going on. And so I put this out there and take a segment to talk about it, to just implore you to, if you possibly can, to help. Just help some of these kids. Because they need it. Because every kid deserves a chance. And I got a lot of flaws and shortcomings, and yes, you guys know it, and you see it, and you say it, and you're like, well, Cameron's wrong there, wrong here. I can tell you one of the things I'm the proudest of is that my family shows up. That when people need help, we try to show up. We don't make a show about it. We just have a rule. Family is who shows up. So whoever's in my house, if any one of you are in my house, we treat you like family because that matters, because family is power. When you have that connection and you have that framework from which to build a life, you have so much opportunity. And we have thousands of kids in the state of Tennessee that don't have that don't have folks advocating for them, that don't have a reliable, trustworthy person in their life. And some of these kids have been hurt really bad. The adults in their lives did not do what was right. And man, that makes me so mad, I could spit. It's some of the stories and things we hear about that some of these kids have endured. But the best thing you can do for that kid is not tell them that, hey, I'm sorry that happened, or, you know, hey, let me write a check. It's open up your home, give them a place that's different, that's stable. So please consider it. And several of you guys have heard me talk about this on the air, and you have responded. You've reached out to me. I've connected you guys with different resources. But don't wait. There's kids right now that need a chance. And this brings me to other policy issues that I think we need to be talking about with our elected officials. So hear me out on this. Even if you say, you know, I don't really have space, or I'm not at the age where this makes sense, or whatever, that you can't, listen on these policy things. One of the biggest challenges that I've seen as a foster parent in Tennessee is that the educational loss that happens when these kids, they use the word disrupted. When these kids are disrupted, it sets them back several months every time from an academic perspective. So what ends up happening is these kids are going backwards while going forwards. They're getting older, and they're still far, far behind. And so what happens, and I'll use Nolensville High School as a good example. Fantastic school, good ratings, all the good positive things. Nolensville High School, for as kind and wonderful and capable and as resourced as that school is not capable of taking somebody who doesn't know basic math and reading, and at a 9th through 12th grade level, giving them appropriate coursework. And man, it's awkward to take advanced teenagers, 15, 16, and say, hey, why don't you go back to second grade? but coming up with an educational game plan that gives resources to the families that are working with these kids to make sure they have the basics, to make sure that they have basic multiplication, division, that they can deal with money, that they can read. It is so hard when these kids come through our house and they can't read. So when they get an assignment, they don't read. You know why? Because even the ones who can sort of read aren't a big fan, have never had anybody really press them and tell them that you got to read the instructions. You got to do this to get your schoolwork done. You got to understand the assignment before you can do it. And that's a big shortcoming right now, because I can tell you in the youth villages continuum, because it's therapeutic foster care, particularly in the residential facilities like over in Bartlett and Memphis, you do not have an education that's working for these kids because their situation is so unique. And so from a public policy standpoint and from a faith standpoint for me, whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me. That's what Jesus says. And so whatever we do for these kids has a deep reflection on what we actually believe. And man, it's just, nobody wants to see it. So many of us don't want to know it exists. I am telling you right now, it exists. It's a problem. I've had kids, they're at my house for a weekend or for a couple of days because they don't have anywhere else to go. Okay? Nowhere else to go. They are the unwanteds in some respects. In many respects. And I'm just begging you, please, 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 please consider fostering. And if you got any questions about that or anything, you're going to reach out offline at D. Cameron Smith on Twitter, anywhere else. I'm not doing this because anybody pays me or asks me to. I'm doing it because of what I see in my own home. I'm doing it because of what my family is engaged. And I hope that you guys will help us be better. If you're looking for the government for solutions, you're looking for somebody else to do it, you want to fight woke culture, here's a way to do it. Raise people in your home, not on your phone.
Hey, Cameron, just real quick, got some breaking weather news.
Yeah, go for it, man.
If I could hop in here. Yeah, so we've had tornado watches throughout Middle Tennessee. Now we do have our first tornado warning issue today. That is in Cheatham in Montgomery County. That's in effect until 2:30. The hazards that they're looking out for, quarter-sized hail, plus obviously possible tornado. So we will be keeping in track with that right here on Super Talk.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a lot of red around.
Some purple, too.
Port Royal, Cedar Hill, Stroudville, Shady Grove. It's looking fancy right now. I don't even think I've seen that color in a while. I mean, that is the magenta. Magenta is bad, Mac.
Yes, the magenta is not good.
Yeah, in fact, I see black.
Oh.
That's
dangerous.
Yeah, the black center inside the magenta on the weather map is run for cover. Yeah. That's, again, just to reiterate what Max said, tornado warning in Cheatham and Montgomery counties. Pay attention, folks. Don't mess around. This looks ugly. And now the map. Have you ever seen this, Mac? This live radar that's 3-dimensional, and now it's like...
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
That is insane looking.
Oh, I've never seen that.
It's, okay, folks, I'll describe it for you. Those of y'all who can't see it. It's a 3-dimensional weather monitoring.
On Channel 4.
On Channel 4, WSMV, right now, first weather alert, they're on there, and it's almost like topographical. We're used to looking to the flat map that just has the different colors, and they just pulled up a version that had... Well, this is how the storm system is working in 3 dimensions.
Yeah, it's like the depth of the storm or something.
And it looks quite scary. Mm-hmm. So, again, be safe, folks. Don't mess around with this stuff. That's Cheatham and Montgomery counties. The rest of you guys north up to the line, basically the Tennessee state line, we've got a watch. So some of y'all are in a warning now in Cheatham and Montgomery counties, and the bulk, a line, look at Cookville through Franklin and Murfreesboro, kind of draw it straight across, straight up to the line, is all in a tornado watch. So Nashville up, pay attention, because this looks ugly. Jolton, Licton, Solitude Acres, never been there. Y'all need to duck and cover It looks rough. So just want you to keep you guys safe, keep you informed. So that's what we're trying to do. Mac, feel free to jump in as we see any other updates
will do.
over the rest of this hour. So thank you. To the foster parenting point, I don't want to beat the dead horse. We got some news. Literally driving through the area. Yeah, okay. I'm telling you this information about the weather so you can be safe. So if you're hearing this and you're driving, find cover. Like in Cheatham and Montgomery counties, do what you need to do to be safe. Lindsay in Pleasant Grove may need to get in her bathroom. So we are now working and figuring it out. And Larry said his first and second wives were magenta. So there you go. Foster parenting, if nothing else, here's something that I would throw out there for your consideration. Think about doing the training, and then you can learn about it and then decide if you want to do it. The training is actually really useful for parenting in general because it teaches you about the brain and how to deal with conflict and stuff from a biological standpoint about what's happening in the brain, and as opposed to just, well, this is right and wrong and these are the rules. I'm all about that, but understanding what's happening in people's brains really matters too. So do the training. You can go to DCS and learn about it. Go check out Youth Villages. Either way, do the training, learn about it. And I'd love to know your experience. If it's great, that's awesome. If it's not great, then let me know that too, because I want to do what I can do, whether it's this station or my writing or engagement with DCS, and try to say, let's get this right. Let's help these kids. That's a big deal. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Keeping an eye in the sky today, we've got a new severe thunderstorm warning, tornado watch in a large portion of Middle Tennessee, and a tornado warning that'll expire in 4 minutes. We'll tell you where. We'll keep you up to date right here. 2:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, welcome back, folks. We got about a half hour left. We've got a scattering of warnings, watches, all kinds of stuff. Mac will keep us in the loop as things progress and change. I think we still got the warning for Montgomery and Cheatham counties, and we're looking at, I guess, just past Clarksville, heading into Adams. We've got polygons, red and orange, and Pleasant View. I've been told that Lindsay lives in Smith County and that we had the wrong county. It could be the wrong one, Lindsay, but let's just be careful out there. Hendersonville looks like it's getting rocked a little right now. Jolton doesn't look like much fun. Miller, haven't been to Miller, I don't think. But yes, Stroudville, Shady Grove, Sango, Port Royal, all look, they are the nasty shades. They are really bad. Sango in particular. So Clarksville actually looks dry, but Sango, not dry. Okay. Let's see. Larry's on his deck in Clarksville. If I see either of my exes, I'll let you know. Thank you, Larry. I really, really appreciate it. Lindsay did confirm she's in Smith County, and she may get blown to Oz. So somebody tie Lindsay down. Make sure she doesn't take off. The last thing that I wanted to get to on the show, because we've got a little time, is Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's one of my favorite people. She's a drama queen. She just likes, good grief. Matt called it. He was right. She had threatened this week to make the motion to vacate, to get rid of Mike Johnson, Thomas Massey. I want to say Ralph Norman was the other one. There were three of them that had co-sponsored the resolution. They were going to make it privileged, and they were going to do it. She seems to have, for now, backed down and doesn't seem ready to pitch him out. And Democrats have said, well, even if she tries, we're not going to play ball with her this time. Which I think is impressive that they're willing to save chaos in the House. Now, they're not doing it because they're magnanimous. They're doing it because they want to be able to say, we have to rescue the leadership of the Republican Party from their most extreme members. That's the ad that they're going to run, just in case you were curious. My question, and what I dug into, is, well, what do they want? What is it that Marjorie Taylor Greene wants? And one of the things that she wants, well, I'll just tell you. They want no more Ukraine aid this year. Only put bills on the floor that a majority of Republicans agree with. That's actually called the Hastert rule. And we'll talk about that a little bit on the other side of the break. They want to defund any Justice Department investigation into Trump and pass essentially regular appropriations or impose a 1% cut across government agencies. I actually support that. I think that's a good idea. Those are the four things they want. We're going to talk about it, and in particular, we're going to talk about the Hastert rule because I've written a piece over at the Tennessean about this. And it's just something we can consider about whether this is the right idea or whether it's politically stupid. When we come back, we'll talk about it. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
It is 2:30. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 79 degrees in Nashville. Remaining weather aware today. All sorts of severe weather on the table as possibilities. That tornado warning in Cheatham and Montgomery County just expired. And as the severe weather day progresses, if we do have other tornado warnings and you're in an area that the tornado warning has been assessed, then you should go to the lowest interior room. You should protect your head from flying debris. Use pillows, blankets, even a helmet. And if you live in a mobile home, try to leave that and find a more low-lying area. We also have a new severe thunderstorm warning that's in Davidson, Cheatham, and Robertson counties. That's until 2:45. And in these storms could see hail and 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And we've got a tornado watch in effect until 9 o'clock tonight for a large portion of Middle Tennessee. Cheatham, Dixon, Humphreys, Montgomery, Putnam, Stewart, Wilson, Clay, Fentress, Jackson, Overton, Robertson, Sumner, Davidson, Houston, Macon, Pickett, Smith, and Trousdale counties. Again, that's a tornado watch in effect until 9 o'clock. We'll get a weather forecast on the way, telling you more here in just a couple minutes. The latest college campus to clear out a pro-Palestinian encampment is George Washington University in D.C. Sherry Preston has more.
Pamela Smith says her officers gave the protesters plenty of warning.
In total, there were 6 dispersal announcements before our officers took action.
She says the movement was necessary after conditions in the encampment grew volatile.
This included a simple assault reported to GW police, security probing of a GW building, indicators that counter-demonstrators were covertly in the encampment, and information that protesters from other schools were traveling to GW.
33 arrests in all.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Belle, I'm quite excited here because I'm seeing reports of a new Office series following the Dunder Mifflin documentary crew as they focus on a dying historic Midwestern newspaper and its volunteer reporters. That I could go for. I could watch that. These rumors keep percolating. I don't see it.
Let me guess, the local sheriff raids the newspaper and takes their computers?
No, that's real life.
Sorry.
It's different. It's different, Mel. That's not the same, okay? In other news, in Indiana, there was a successful candidate for office who won the primary, but died of a heart attack in March. So
that's bad planning.
That's rough. Imagine if you're losing to the person who's not alive. That would be like Trump being down in the polls.
That's happened.
Okay. So this is actually kind of a serious topic, and I wanted to give it due diligence. What does the Kamikaze Caucus want? And the Kamikaze Caucus, it's not the Freedom Caucus, it's the folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene who are threatening to get rid of the speaker for various reasons. It's call them 10, might be fewer, might be a little more, members of the Republican Party who basically say, if you don't give me my way, I'm going to use this motion to vacate, which, by the way, this all started, this is Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy started negotiating deals and doing all kinds of weird side deals to say, we're going to give these folks this and these folks that. And I get it. He didn't have a lot of votes to play with. So he basically said, I'm going to cut all these different deals. But it hasn't worked out since. It just hasn't. Certainly didn't work out for Kevin McCarthy. These are the demands for the Kamikaze Caucus. No more aid to Ukraine this year. Only put bills on the floor that majority of Republicans agree with. Defund Justice Department investigations into Trump and pass a dozen individual spending bills or institute a 1% cut across government agencies. The last two are messaging bills because you can defund these investigations. You won't get all the Republicans on it. You just won't. I'm just telling you right now that these messaging bills, probably a non-starter. Maybe you get it out. Okay. It's an election year. Might be fun. A lot of Republicans will play ball. The return to regular order or have a 1% cut across government agencies, I would love. I would co-sponsor that tomorrow. Again, it's probably just messaging because no way that the Senate takes it up. Still, that doesn't mean it's a bad ask, and it's something that I think is a good idea. Ukraine aid, the way I look at it, as far as subsequent aid this year, is if I don't have a clear plan for what our engagement in Ukraine looks like, then even I, who do believe we have a strategic interest here in thwarting Russia, I wouldn't support it because I don't see the plan, and I certainly don't see anything coming from Joe Biden that resembles a plan. And you can't tell me the Taiwan strategic ambiguity thing with Ukraine. Like, we have a strategic interest here. What's the game plan? What are we going to do? How do you make it not like Afghanistan? I think that's a reasonable ask. I wish people would say that more than just on or off with funding. It's more of, well, what's the game plan? What does success look like? How do we know? For folks who, so we're down to the issue of only put bills on the floor that a majority of Republicans agree with. This is called the Hastert Rule. This is what I wrote the column about. So the Hastert Rule, it actually started with, the best I can tell, Democratic Speaker Tom Foley. And he told Newt Gingrich the rule, and Gingrich told Hastert. For some reason, it's called the Hastert Rule. But it's no floor votes on any bill which doesn't have the majority support from the majority party. So what would typically happen is you whip the vote. So in the House Republican Conference, they all get together in the Capitol building regularly, and you would take a whip vote of, regarding a certain piece of legislation and say, okay, where are we? And if you don't have a majority of the majority party, in this case Republicans, then you cannot put that legislation on the floor. I'll use this example of the Ukraine bill, and then I'll provide some counter examples, because I don't want you to get hung up on the issue. It's more of the practice. So the recent vote to send military aid to Ukraine split the GOP. Everybody knows that. It was actually pretty close to down the middle. 112 Republicans voted against the measure and 101 supported it. Okay? It passed with 311 votes. So this was quite popular in the House as a whole. It did not, by definition, have a majority of the majority party. It didn't follow the Hastert rule. Now, there's two things here. One, you could argue, well, the whip count was close, and so Johnson said, let's go ahead and put it on the floor because it's close enough for government work. And then this is how the actual vote count went down. Here's why that matters. In conference, in a whip vote, it's kind of like polling. When folks call you, you can do whatever you want. It's a much different animal when it's your actual vote. And it's on the record, and people can see how you vote. So that vote prior to getting on the floor, it might have been the other way narrowly. Who knows? The conference does, but those are usually confidential. They usually don't put those out there. So what if it's a different vote? Let's use the same vote count, but say it's age verification for pornography. 101 conservative Republicans support it, and 112 don't. How about constructing a physical border wall? How about a federal tax cut? The real question here is, would conservative Republicans be fine scuttling their priorities because 10 or 11 GOP rhinos wouldn't support them? And I don't think the answer is yes. I think the answer is no. I think conservatives would say absolutely not. We got a ton of Republicans here. If Democrats happen to want to, you get a bunch of moderate Democrats coming in saying, yeah, let's do age verification for pornography. I don't think folks would say no to that. Maybe I'm wrong. You can let me know on the Members Nutrition Super Text line, 615-737-9986. But the bigger issue is, okay, so we're supposed to be a representative republic. Like, this is what we are. So we have our representatives, and what we should want to see is these votes with like a 311 votes. That says a overwhelming majority support a thing. An overwhelming majority of the representatives of the American people support a thing. I don't think America's interests are served by preventing votes with those kind of overwhelming majorities. And Green and co. seem to believe that we can't do anything that can't be passed by Republicans alone, unless it's a vote to remove the speaker, where she's perfectly happy to work with Democrats. It's a double shot of the Hastert rule with a chaser of hypocrisy. I just don't think we want to write the Democrat ads for them. I don't think we want to make this easier on them. And I'm going to throw out something for your consideration. Some of y'all hate this. Some of y'all love it. And it'll make sense to some of you. And some of you will be like, what? The Hastert rule, what Green and the Kamikaze Caucus really want, imposes a real political cost on the majority party. Why? Because from time to time, it's a good idea to give Republicans in competitive districts an opportunity to break with the majority party, the majority of the party. That's actually a good idea. The Ukraine vote is a good example. We might have a couple of immigration reforms that are as well. And then the real question is, in that instance, is it better for Republicans to work with, call it 20 Democrats, to advance legislation that's going to pass with a significant majority, or to let 10 or 20 Republicans paralyze the whole GOP? Now, I understand if it's your issue that's up for a vote, you're perfectly fine shutting things down. But imagine it's your vote that you're wanting to get a vote on, and it never makes it to the floor. And I think that's the difficulty that we're running into, is that Republicans, it's easy for Republicans to say no. We're not big. We used to not be big government people. We used to be, hey, we don't really want government to do that. And now it's, well, we just can't even govern. We can't even move legislation because we can't get along long enough to do it. And we're trying to do it without help of any Democrats. I don't think that the majority should always bring up any majority bill. I started the show talking about Justin Pearson and Justin Jones and saying, look, y'all aren't even trying to put anything relevant out there that the Republicans could say, oh, well, that might make sense. You're not pulling anybody into the fold. But when there's a vote that's going to have 3/4 of the House, that you whip it and you look at it and it's like, oh, wow, this is pretty popular. I'm not sure why 25% of the House of Representatives should get to dictate to the rest of the House of Representatives what they're going to do. And I actually think that rule of 3/4 of saying, if you can cobble together a 3/4 majority on any piece of legislation, it at least deserves the floor vote, right? When 75% of the country is saying this is what we want to do through their elected representatives. And I get it. There's some folks who are just shut it down, don't do anything. We don't want to do anything. But I certainly would appreciate that if Republicans are in the minority, which we're not that many votes off from being. It's a one bad election away from Democrats having control again. And I don't think that cooperation is being a traitor. On most things, look, on abortion, guns, a lot of immigration, we're going to just disagree. And there's not a lot of, it's harder to find those common grounds in terms of votes. But I don't think that working together is the problem. If a Democrat happens to agree with me on priorities that my constituents care about, why would I tell them, no, sorry, I'm not going to work with you? So we've got another warning. These are going to start coming through en masse. So the terrestrial-based folks are hearing the warning. You guys on video and the web can still hear me. So I told Bill, it sounds like I'm getting my brain erased with the warning messages. But it's I'm listening to it. It's Montgomery, Robertson County until 3:15. So I'm listening to this stuff. It does sound like I got my brain deleted in these headphones. But my whole point is that compromise isn't a bad thing. It's not something that we should be afraid of. It's not poisonous. And I just don't like the idea that a very small vocal minority and either the Democratic Party or Republican Party can tell us what to do. That's not how this is supposed to work. I mean, call it the salting of the soil of compromise. That's what certain groups are doing. And you see this with folks on the left too, so don't think that I'm just talking about Republicans here. I'm talking about everybody. I mean, this is a huge problem and we need to get over it. But the goal of politics is not just making talking points for cable news. It's governing our country. It's governing our states. So our representative votes in Congress need to reflect the majority. Welcome back, those of y'all who just got that warning. We've got it moved to Robertson County now. So y'all just heard that. This looks rough, folks. This is ugly. It looks like a lot of the Port Royal area, Stroudville, Shady Grove. It's moved past that into Cedar Hill, Springfield, and a couple other areas. So there is a confirmed tornado in Robertson County. A confirmed tornado in Robertson County. I'm guessing it's the white X on the screen. We got to take a break. Y'all stay safe. It is indeed closing time. I've enjoyed the last 2 afternoons with you. Matt will be back. I will be gone, but I'll be here next Wednesday to join in on the show. I wanted to issue a couple weather things because we know we have the top of the hour stuff. The confirmed tornado in Robertson County. There's a lot of lightning everywhere. It looks like north of Hendersonville. Brian, are you safe where you're located?
Yeah, I'm way down in Watertown. I'm away from it, but I got to tell you, this is a confirmed tornado, and it looks like a pretty good cell. A lot of lightning and indications that there's quite a bit of hail, and this storm, which is as you said accurately, has been confirmed. This isn't radar indicated. They've actually got eyes on a tornado. Seems to be bearing down on Springfield right now. So we have a nice show put together, but I have a feeling that a lot of what we have planned will be put aside as we look at weather. It's starting to kick up, and this is going to be a pretty rock and roll afternoon here on Super Talk 99.7.
Well, I appreciate you being there to keep people safe. Y'all definitely need to pay attention to the drive. It's going to be a wild one this evening. But Brian Wilson and the driver are here to take care of you. Isn't that right, Brian? I know it is. Thank you for giving me the time. This is the Matt Murphy Show, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7.